Throughout the Cold War, U.S. government agencies stockpiled information on UFOs. Not surprisingly, so did our counterparts behind the Iron Curtain. But since the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, many allegations have come out about the once secret KGB UFO files, including this next story, which might be the strangest one yet. In 2011, a mysterious YouTube user named Ivan0135 uploads what he claims is leaked classified footage from the KGB shot between 1942 and 1969. The first video, posted on April 13th, starts with a KGB logo and censored text above and below. You can hear the audio clicking of an old film projector. Remember that. Next, we see a house and a mysterious flying saucer-shaped object hovering behind it. Switching to an aerial view, a saucer-shaped UFO is seen first from a distance and then zoomed in. But the most shocking footage is yet to come. Next, we're shown what looks like an alien autopsy being performed. Just weeks after the first video, a second, even more stunning video is released. It purports to put us face to face with an actual live alien. Notice how it blinks its huge, expressive eyes, and it moves its enormous round head and slim arms. As the camera pans from the bottom to the top of an alien's body, it's obvious it fits the descriptions of the infamous Greys, the alien culprit blamed in almost 3/4 of abduction reports. Science writer and spaceflight historian Amy Title says the footage was first uploaded to a YouTube channel created the same day the first video was shared.
This video led to a lot of discussion online, with people wondering if this footage was indeed real, and if so, what did that mean? One theory is that this is real video footage of the aliens who landed in the Soviet Union in the 1940s.
Title notes that some believe the footage may have been faked as part of an elaborate Cold War Soviet psyop designed to instill fear and paranoia in the United States. Would putting captured aliens on display strike panic in the West?
The idea was this footage was designed to scare the United States into believing that the Soviets had this alien technology. There's even a theory that the Roswell incident of 1947 was actually staged by Stalin, just to create this fear and doubt within the United States.
Or could it possibly be real? Title says, given more recent events, maybe aliens visiting Russia isn't so far-fetched after all.
There is a long history of alien encounters within the Soviet Union. The most notable event was in 1977 in Petrozavodsk. A number of eyewitnesses reported seeing an amethyst-colored jellyfish floating in the sky. The Petrozavodsk incident led to a meeting of the Soviet Ministry of Defense in Moscow, which in turn led to the creation of 2 new departments designed especially to look into UFO phenomena. They operated without interruption until 1990.
The official Soviet UFO investigators never released any definitive proof of alien contact. Could this be it? Our experts are here to get to the pravda. That means the truth. We begin our analysis with our aviation and military expert, Tim McMillan.
In the first portion of the video, the flying saucer-shaped object certainly has some characteristics that are consistent with a blimp. It appears kind of football-shaped. We have the darker bottom with the lighter top, which is sunlight reflecting on it. But in terms of exotic maneuvers, you don't see any. And so could this be a balloon? Could this be a blimp? Absolutely.
Next, we ask Professor of Anatomy and Anthropology, Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, to examine the figures seen in the footage.
I don't think that we're looking at real aliens. I think it's much more likely costumed children. This impression stems from the body proportions as well as the movements. The child has a fairly distinctive way of moving. The biomechanics of their body movements are dictated by their smaller mass and lack of maturity of body control. The same can be said for the movements, I think, seen here.
Finally, we take the footage to our forensic video analyst, Michael Primo. He immediately notes that the time code on the videos was embedded digitally after the fact.
Devices like these projectors didn't have time code. What's peculiar is the way that the time code is pulsing at one point in the video, and how at other points of the video there is no time code displayed. Just doesn't make any sense.
And here's the key discovery. Primo says that the film damage we see here is identical to a film damage effect available in some popular video editing software. And finally, remember the sound of that projector click? Primo says that's an important clue too.
One of the things that I detected in the tonality of the projector clicking sound. The tone or the pitch of that sound changes, which is an indication that the speed of the video was changed when it was being played back. So that prompted me to measure a sample group of pictures, and the sample produced a result of 47 frames per second. Much higher than any kind of film photography should have been digitized at, because the standard for film was only 24 frames per second back then.
Our verdict? This is likely a hoax, but we can't prove who made it or why. Perhaps it's an individual prankster, or perhaps it's someone working for Mr. Putin to spread Russian disinformation. Either way, comrade, you didn't fool us this time. March 2017. Erica Garner is home alone in her house just outside Houston. Her husband has left for a business trip.
I was outside, I was playing with my 2 dogs, and I noticed something very strange on my rooftop. There was black birds going in a circle. I had never seen that before.
This feels like some sort of omen as Erica goes back inside. She's giving water to her dogs when suddenly...
Oh! What was that?
Let's freeze on that, because if you blink, you'll miss it. A strange blue light streaking through the room, leaving Erica stunned and momentarily at a loss for words.
That was weird.
It was almost like plasma. Everything in the room turned completely white, almost like an explosion, and my eyes started burning.
Okay, it's really weird.
Even stranger, the flash only lasts a second, though Erica says it felt much longer.
What was that?
It traveled almost like it was a train coming across the room, slowly coming in for a stop. And this happened for all about 7 seconds.
And that night, things get downright funky.
I had trouble sleeping, I was having some strange dreams, and it definitely impacted me.
Erica's dreams of pink and purple galaxies make her feel like she's been transported through time. And she wonders if the blue flash could have been an extraterrestrial force.
Into my research, trying to figure out what possibly a blue beam of light could come from. People have said they've experienced alien abductions and they might see a blue beam of light.
One similar case happened in 1975. An Arizona logger named Travis Walton disappeared after walking toward an unidentified beam of light in the forest. He recalled being transported to a strange place surrounded by alien beings. And when he made it home, he was shocked to learn he'd been gone for 5 days.
There are definitely things in this world that we do not understand.
So what is Erica's blue flash? Well, we know it's not her security camera malfunctioning because we can hear her reacting in real time.
Oh, what was that?
So the first thing we did was a proper analysis of the footage. Photography expert Andrew McCarthy starts by examining the footage frame by frame.
So right after this, the camera lost several frames. You see a distinct jump. Her hair moves, the dogs move. It's just a significant jump. She said it was 7 seconds. I'm not sure if it was 7 seconds, but it was a long time, long enough that they significantly shifted positions.
But McCarthy says there's something else that's even stranger.
What didn't make sense to me is nothing here is casting a shadow. It seems like the light source would be coming behind the camera to cause this, but you would see some kind of shadow cast on the legs of these chairs, you know, on the dogs. But you don't see any of that. It's just bright, and it's uniformly bright.
Forensic investigator Chase Klotsky is curious if the flash could be something as simple as a burnt-out light bulb. So she asks the Garners to run a test.
Erica and her husband put this light bulb in, and they tapped it. And if you tap it long enough, it burned out. Once you compare when the light bulb blows out and that reaction, and you put it next to the blue flash, they're not even close.
Okay, so if it wasn't a blown bulb, was it possibly a strike of lightning from outside? Atmospheric scientist Deanna Hentz reviews the local weather radar from that day.
What you're seeing is that a round of fairly intense thunderstorms went through the Houston area, but it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, whereas this video was taken at 11:30 in the morning. That really leads me to think that lightning is not responsible for that flash.
Some experts believe wormholes in the universe
create paths to move backwards in time and through parallel universes. Perhaps the blue flash was one such path.
I stand more on the side of this being a time glitch. It's an error in our time-space fabric.
What was that?
So what is it? The strange jump in the footage does point to some kind of time glitch, but whether it's caused by an alien force, a wormhole, or something else is unclear. So for now, I'm prepared to call this a genuine unexplained phenomenon. It's summer 1991 in Barmby Place, Bradford, UK. 15-year-old Adam Mawson has been using a camcorder to record his house when no one's home, in an effort to document some strange recent happenings. And on one of the tapes, Adam finds something frightening. Nothing seems amiss until a shadowy figure slowly begins to emerge from the chair. Look closely. It eventually rises and moves about the room, passing behind the door frame before returning and seemingly disappearing through the wall. Moments later, a second figure appears from the right and follows closely behind the other into the wall.
I was scared to death because I thought, what the hell is that? And that's when I showed my parents it, and my mum said, oh yeah, I've seen that before. I've seen it with her own eyes.
And to journalist Alexis Brooks, it sounds like a classic haunted house tale.
Barmby Place ranks among one of the most haunted places that I have ever seen. I mean, you're talking about disembodied voices, doors opening, closing on their own, and even what I would call a shadow person phenomenon.
Shadow people are described as dark silhouettes with human shapes and profiles. These shadowy creatures are sometimes interpreted as the presence of a spirit or other entity. Others believe these figures to be negative beings that can be repelled by various means, including invoking the name of Jesus.
I have seen and heard so many accounts of what we call the shadow person phenomenon. Many reports of shadow people include harassing an individual in their bedroom. So I would dare say that in addition to the more conventional haunting, we have what I would call a shadow person phenomenon going on in that home.
A figure often associated with shadow people is the Hat Man, a famous urban legend who wears a dark coat, a hat, and is unusually tall. Sometimes the figure is thought to be the devil himself. Adam's father still lives in the house on Barmby Place and says the activity has died down since he found religion. But that only seems to confirm that perhaps something spiritual was going on. Our experts take a closer look. First, we head to forensic video analyst Michael Primo for an authenticity check of this digitized copy.
We're not able to identify it as an actual ghost through forensic testing, but it could be the product of when the video was processed between the time that it was produced on tape to this digital version as some sort of artifact that is concealed as the object travels by, but is it CGI? Less likely.
So this footage probably wasn't manipulated intentionally, but how about accidentally?
These shadowy figures don't appear to be something that was introduced into the recording based on the artifacts that are present throughout its movement. And because we see these shadowy figures over several seconds in multiple instances, it's more likely something that actually happened in the video images.
So this recording itself may not have been manipulated, but we are not ready to declare this a ghost. We turn to physicist Dr. Matthew Shadagis, who suspects something shady.
What we're seeing here is this dark figure or shadow seeming to pass into the left wall and disappear, which would favor the ghost explanation. However, if you look very carefully over these few frames, there is some pixel darkening on the left that would seem to indicate that the shadow goes over the wall as we'd expect for a normal shadow being cast by someone off camera. It does not fully explain all the subtle motions we see, such as when the shape rises out of the chair, but it's the most plausible non-ghost explanation that I can come up with.
Primo disagrees and doesn't see any evidence that the shadow was created by someone off camera.
If the shadow was produced by the operator that's standing behind the camera, we would expect to see more of that cast off on the regions surrounding the doorway. But it's not produced over here on the right side of the image. These darker regions, being some sort of shadow is not really possible with the way that we don't see that information on the doorway.
So if we're ruling out shadows of someone off camera, could this truly be a ghost? Some say physics itself is all the proof you need of life after death, because the law of conservation of energy states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. We bring that theory to Dr. Shadagis.
This is a misinterpretation of what conservation of energy means. The very notion of conservation of energy comes from energy changing form. And a great example of this energy exchange occurs after we have passed away and our body decomposes. Gases and other elements will feed the worms after we've died. Therefore, we cannot use an argument like conservation of energy from physics in order to prove or disprove life after death.
So, it seems current science still can't attest to the existence of ghosts. But as of now, we can't explain this video any other way. Our verdict? This video is a bona fide case of unexplained phenomena, over 30 years running.
It's July 2016 in the Pisgah National Forest in western North Carolina. 2 astronomy-grade cameras have been installed by Appalachian State University astrophysicist Dr. Dan Caton to observe the Brown Mountain Ridge every night. And now they seem to have captured something inexplicable. Anomalous white lights blink on sporadically in the night sky high above the ridge and over the street lights down in the town. In the span of about 20 minutes, they appear at least 4 times. Dan says when he played back this footage, he was amazed.
This video stood out in that it had something that was obviously different. But we had a light here that persisted over 20 minutes, came and went, had no lateral motion sideways, had no up-down motion. These claims of paranormal, they deserve investigation.
Although accounts of the mysterious lights go back many years, the first published article about them only came out in 1912. Around this time, there were frequent reports of sightings from a spot near a local hotel in the mountains. Journalist M.J. Benaya says the reports had reached such a fever pitch by 1922 that the U.S. Geological Survey decided to investigate.
People claim that what we're seeing here is a phenomenon known as ball lightning. You have static electricity just like you do with a regular lightning strike, except instead of it arcing into a sort of line, it balls up and it sort of hovers temporarily.
Others, though, believe the Brown Mountain lights have a spookier source.
There's a school of belief that the Brown Mountain lights are actually some sort of manifestation of spirits or ghosts. There's claims that soldiers from the Civil War were killed during a battle near the mountains, and what we see are their ghosts carrying lanterns at night.
Another theory that's been floated is train headlights. In 1913, a USGS investigator found that Southern Railway trains could be seen from Brown Mountain, and that many reported sightings lined up with the train schedule. But this idea was flushed out after the tracks washed away in a 1916 flood, and the sightings continued. So will our experts finally be the ones to get to the bottom of this centuries-old mystery?
Physicist Dr. Matthew Shadagis explores the ball lightning hypothesis.
We don't understand from a scientific perspective how ball lightning could form. We have a series of equations in physics known as Maxwell's equations. Maxwell's equations tell us how to make predictions for how electrical phenomena behave. Unfortunately, Maxwell's equations don't give us something that look like ball lightning.
These 4 complex equations are named after Scottish physicist and mathematician James Clerk Maxwell, who came up with an early version of them in the 1860s. Based on the equations, the size of ball lightning's electric charge would be too great for it to move as observed here. So could the lights just be coming from a plane?
When the light shows up, it looks sort of like a floating, hovering ball. You know it's not a plane. A plane that has blinking lights is traveling through the frame is going to make a long, drawn-out line.
But what if it could be a reflection of a light on the ground, as we discussed before in the case of the Turkish UFO? Since we keep mentioning the Fata Morgana phenomenon, here's how it works. It occurs when the temperature of the air below the line of sight is colder than the air above. This causes light rays passing through to bend down, making the image of the object appear higher than the actual object.
This is an illusion that occurs near the horizon, and we see lights that are significantly above the horizon.
The high altitude of the lights doesn't seem to make much sense for the Fata Morgana theory, and the conditions need to be just right to create such an illusion. This is seen with such frequency, we're going to rule that explanation out. Therefore, our verdict is that the brown mountain lights remain unexplained.